Hi, this is Sofia Paniagua, and today this presentation I decided to make it on making weight in combat sports, and more specifically in mixed martial arts, or short MMA. I grew up practicing karate with my younger brother, and martial arts has been a big part of my life growing up and up until this point. And so I figured I should research more about this topic, and this presentation is going to be on making weight in combat sports. So, MMA is rapidly growing and gaining a lot of popularity. The sport is gaining recognition from the media and fans, and more athletes are turning to MMA as a career opportunity, make a living, and support their family. Nevertheless, to be successful in the sport, not only do they need to have high level skills in martial arts, they need to take into account any and all advantages that they can get, such as optimizing their nutrition, recovery, strength conditioning, mental toughness, and psychomotor skills to become successful at the highest levels. So, MMA is a combat sport which incorporates a wide range of grappling, kicking, and punching techniques from several disciplines such as jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, judo, taekwondo, and karate. MMA is taxing on the aerobic, anaerobic, and phosphagen energy systems. Since these athletes require equal amounts of muscular strength, for instance, wrestling takedowns, muscular endurance to last five-minute rounds for a total of 25-minute bout of exercise, and muscular power, such as punching or knockout power. Competitions in MMA are in divisional weight classes. Athletes are divided into categories based on gender and body mass. So, for example, I hope everyone knows who Conor McGregor is. He says that he was successful at the lightweight division, that's 155 pounds, but he was actually crazy enough and capable enough to move up and down in weight classes, fighting and winning in all of those different weight classes. MMA athletes often complete a training camp prior to their fight, their competition, ranging in duration from 4 to 12 weeks in length. And this is for them to physically get ready, study their opponent, and to make weight. So there are a lot of issues in making a specific weight class. People do not walk around weighing in exactly 135, 155, 170 pounds. And sure, athletes may be fit and train almost every day and be at the healthy or optimal weight in general, which they perform at their best day in and day out, right? However, they still cut weight. But why? The problem, in an attempt to qualify for the lowest weight category possible, these athletes typically engage in practices associated with acute and chronic body mass loss, many of which are detrimental to health and performance. Athletes who lose 20 pounds in just 5 days. Imagine losing 4 pounds every day, 5 days leading up to an MMA fight. It's crazy. And it doesn't sound fun, and the body will take a toll physically, and the athlete will take a toll mentally. So there's a lack of research on the amount of weight that professional athletes and professional MMA fighters lose prior to competition, the methods that they use to cut weight, and their sources of advice to cut weight. And so MMA athletes of all levels in this study by Park et al. 2019, this statistic is pretty concerning. Only 20% reported using the help of a registered dietitian or nutritionist for dietary advice for cutting weight. So this is definitely concerning. And so who is advising these athletes to throughout their weight cuts, and if doing weight cuts is an actual advantage for the athlete, and if this can be done in a safe and healthy way. So for this presentation, a general research question was, what are the acute and chronic physiological consequences of rapid weight loss in MMA athletes? MMA might be one of the most intricate sports out there because you need to be competent in different martial arts and be conditioned for the varying physiological demands of the sport, have good fight IQ, for instance, reading your opponent's responses, attacks, and have your nutrition on point to train, perform, and make weight. So for this presentation, I'll be presenting the current state of the literature regarding the different strategies that athletes use to make weight and the physiological consequences of performing these rapid weight loss strategies, aka losing 20 pounds in 5 days, and what sources of advice these athletes are using to make weight, and if it's even possible to make weight safely. So again, the research question for this presentation was, what are the acute and chronic physiological consequences of rapid weight loss in MMA athletes? So what is making weight? Weight cutting, in other words, making weight, this is to gain a competitive edge or advantage and be paired with a smaller opponent by using significant body weight reduction. Athletes attempt to compete against a lighter opponent by losing body mass prior to being weighed. And in the same study by Park et al. 2019, 98% of professional MMA athletes recruited, they reported using rapid weight loss strategies to make weight for competition. So pretty much everyone is doing these strategies, and we're going to see which strategies are used the most in the following slides. The training camp, the period in which they start to train, prepare for their competition, their fight. It ranges in weeks in the amount of time that they have to train to prepare for the fight, but usually 4, 6, 12 weeks long. And fight week, this is the period in time around 5 days out up until they have to step on the scale and then fight. Weigh-ins, this is the moment where they step on that scale and make the magic number. And obviously it will depend on the athlete, with what weight class they're competing at, and if they're males, females. And for the weigh-ins, this would be the time between the weigh-in and competition. The time between weigh-in and competition will range up to 2 and 24 hours, depending on the level of competition, the promotion. But this would possibly influence the weight loss strategies employed by athletes, and we'll see them in the next couple of slides. So how do they lose all of that weight? Before I talk about the different strategies that athletes use to cut weight, I want to make a clear distinction between acute and chronic weight loss. So acute weight loss will be short term, and our bodies, right, experience natural fluctuations of weight both during the day and day to day during the week. So these fluctuations are due to, for example, fluid intake, fluid output, the amount of food consumed and the types of food consumed, and our activity levels. Compare this to chronic or long-term weight loss that could be achieved through diet and exercise. And so going back to my research question for this presentation, what are the acute and chronic physiological consequences of rapid weight loss in MMA athletes? Looking at chronic weight loss strategies that this can be achieved through diet and exercise, we have accumulated energy deficit, that this can be achieved throughout the 8 to 12 weeks of the training camp. And so the physiological consequence of prolonging the energy deficit throughout many weeks of their training could be the male athlete triad or relative energy deficiency in sports. Low energy availability is associated with the conservation of energy metabolism. This would be hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis disturbance, reductions in insulin-like growth factor 1, leptin. Another physiological consequence would be suppression of reproductive function. For example, via hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis disturbance, poor semen quality, and another physiological consequence, impaired bone health. Another thing to achieve chronic weight loss could be manipulation of energy intakes and or exercise energy expenditure. This would be achieved through food intake or the quantity and volume of exercise that we do in a day or in a week. And so if we are smart about the manipulation of energy intakes and the exercise energy expenditure, fluctuations in daily low energy availability status may reduce some of the physiological consequences that we discussed, like impairments of metabolic rate, immunity, protein synthesis, and cardiovascular function. And we will see some of this, how it can be achieved in the case studies that we'll be presenting in the next slides. Now, for acute weight loss strategies, there are 5 popular methods that fighters use to make weight, and these were recorded by the study by Park et al. 2019. The number one, the most popular method that fighters use to make weight is food restriction. So some of the physiological consequences of this, right, would drain your energy levels in the day or weeks, throughout the weeks. Draining your energy levels would send your body into conservation or sleep mode and will leave you feeling hungry, agitated, and won't gear you up for training for performance. The second most popular method used is water loading, and this can be achieved in several ways. but this would look something like reducing the sodium intake, low sodium, and then high water intakes. That would equal to sweating more or peeing more water and losing more weight. Number 3, increased training or energy expenditure. But this, like we discussed, with low energy availability, this will equal to poor training performance. Number 4, sauna use, and 5, sweatsuit use. These are similar, and in essence, these methods are used to dehydrate the athlete and make the athlete lose water weight. That would dehydrate the athlete. And the effects of dehydration, like we've learned in previous classes, this will manifest as the reduction in glycogen stores in the body. And with this, we would have several physiological consequences. Core temperature would increase, and the heart rate would spike, blood pressure, a lot of physiological consequences. So to summarize, some of the overall physiological consequences would be dehydration of approximately 2% of body weight. This can induce impairments in performance. This would impair vigilance, attention, short-term memory, perceptual discrimination, visual motor tracking, and psychomotor skills. Increased blood viscosity associated with dehydration would increase the risk of ischemic heart disease and stroke. Dehydration could also alter the brain morphology and potentially increase the risk of brain injury arising from head trauma induced by strikes, getting hit in the face multiple times, hormonal imbalances, changes to insulin sensitivity, bone loss, and suppressed immune function, influences in testosterone, growth hormone, sex hormone binding globulin, growth hormone binding protein, cortisol, insulin, and weight cutting does not only pose physical but also mental stress, where athletes may be at risk of developing an unhealthy body image and thus increasing the risk of eating disorders. So for this first case study, this was a professional male MMA athlete of around 22 years of age, a body mass of 80.2 kilograms, and a height of 1.80 meters. This study was 8 weeks long, and the measures that they took were body composition, resting metabolic rate, peak oxygen uptake, blood clinical chemistry, such as the endocrine status, lipid profiles, hydration, kidney function. For the phased weight loss, they used 4 different phases. On phase 1, this was the first 7 weeks out of competition, in which the athlete was eating approximately 1,300 to 1,900 calories a day. On phase 2, the athlete went through water loading phase, 5 days out of the simulated competition. Then phase 3, this was 20 hours of fasting and dehydration. And phase 4 consisted of after competition, after the weight cut, rehydration and refueling 32 hours prior to the fight. And so for the results, they saw a weight loss from 80.2 kilograms to 65 kilograms. The athlete experienced dehydration, reduction seen by the reduction in body mass of 9.3%. There was relative energy deficiency, reduced resting metabolic rate of 331 kcals. The athlete experienced hypernatremia, seen in his plasma sodium of 148 millimoles per liter. Kidney injury with a serum creatinine of 177 micromoles per liter, and then hypercholesterolemia, which was greater than 6 millimoles per liter. So overall, for the athlete, was incapable of completing the performance test. So we could see that the harmful and potentially fatal effects of extreme weight cutting in MMA athletes, and this represents a call for action to governing bodies and just professionals in the field to safeguard the welfare of the MMA athletes. In the second study, they looked at two different athletes. Athlete number one was 22 years of age, height of 1 meter 77, body mass 79 kilograms, and body fat of 9%. Athlete number two was 22 years of age, height of 1 meter 74, body mass of 75 kilograms with a body fat of 7.6%. And they used different magnitudes of rapid weight loss. So each athlete underwent a different magnitude of rapid weight loss. So the study was geared towards a simulated competition. This was 7 days before combat at weigh-in, and then on combat day, they made the following measures: anthropometrics, nutritional status, training, voluntary dehydration strategies, salivary samples, cognition response tests, isometric strength, and muscular power tests. In the results, they saw that athlete number one underwent a greater weight loss. He lost 7.2 kilograms. That was 9.1% of his body weight. And the salivary nitrate decreased 35.9%. Athlete number two experienced a not of a big weight loss. He lost 4 kilograms. That was 5.3% of the total body weight. And he had better recovery overall, and a salivary nitrate, it decreased 25.2%. And we can see from these results that higher amounts of the rapid weight loss have negative impacts on average power and cognition compared with lower weight loss. The recovery period between weigh-ins and competitions may be insufficient for total reestablishment of salivary nitrate after rapid weight loss, and this rapid salivary nitrate, it's important to consider that the reduction of salivary nitrate is associated with a lower oxygen transport capacity, overall decreasing muscular performance. So, can we do things better? It is unlikely that weight cutting in combat sports will be stopped anytime soon. However, a combination of strategies to minimize weight cutting and to improve recovery during the recovery periods may drastically improve the culture around weight cutting and help athletes maximize their health and competitive performance. Rules and regulations might solve the weight cutting issues. However, it's definitely difficult as I've come to learn more and more. And we have to be aware of the fairness of competition between athletes, fairness of the organizations, between the athlete and the promotion, different promotions, and making sure that the athletes are properly tested, but also taking care of their health and performance. So the risk to benefit ratio, it's important that that we look at the health and performance of the athletes, and that we do so at the amateur and professional levels. We need to consider the health risks that these athletes are putting themselves into when they're doing the different strategies of weight cutting, and what the risks are, the physiological consequences, the short term and the long term. And so for MMA, for the performance, it is an extremely dangerous sport already, so why make it even worse if we can find ways to individually help these athletes and make weight cutting safer? Is still relatively unknown, and there's definitely a gap in research to see if weight cutting is actually advantageous. There's just not enough evidence that this would equal to a successful performance or successful outcome in the fight. And at the USC Performance Institute, I'm just starting to learn that they are doing really cool science and performance tests that are helping these athletes improve their performance and stay healthy throughout a training camp, throughout a weight cut, and help them to the best of our abilities with their health and performance. So to finish off, there's some limitations to the studies that I've presented in this presentation. So these were obviously case studies. This with descriptive research and self-reported methods were used to achieve the rapid weight loss strategies. And these rapid weight loss strategies are widely variable. They are highly individualized, and overall, just further studies are now required to use randomized controlled trials to ascertain the threshold and time course of energy availability that induces impairments in physiological function of male athletes. And there's also gap research where we need to be better and look at female athletes as well. And these are my references. And this is a section for questions for my class presentation. Thank you. Thank you for listening.